Hello, everyone. My name is Coel Reynolds, and I'm here to tell you my story, what happened in my marriage. And the reason I want to tell you this is because the marriage ended, and we have 5 children. But I just wanted to give my story. I'm starting a podcast. Um, this podcast is called Respect is Love. Respect is Love. That's what I want to call it. Um, and it's to encourage wives to respect their husbands as leaders in their home. So I want to give my backstory to show you what happened with me to help you understand why it's important to respect your husband. So when I met my husband, we were in high school, and I was 16 going on 17. I was pretty young. He was 17. And when we met, I could tell he was, kind of smitten by me. I could tell that he really, really liked me. And I kind of developed, I hate to say it, I had this little attitude. Of course, I grew up in a good Christian home. I had a really good upbringing. But I just had a self-righteous spirit. And it was just very ugly. I believe it was very ugly, but it didn't look that way. So basically, when we met, I thought that I was all of that, bag of chips, the dip, everything. So I thought I was just something on a stick, okay? So when he took notice of me, I was like, okay, well, cool. Let's do this, So when we were in school, I hate to talk about it because I was, not that I was like evil or anything, but, I just had this chip on my shoulder. And I prayed this prayer. I grew up in a Christian home. Uh, Christian background. My father was a preacher. My mom was like a hometown missionary. And I was a church girl. I thought, okay, I go to church. And when he met me, I thought, oh, he got him a good church girl. I'm all of that. I'm the best thing. There's no woman that's better than me because, I'm in the church. You know, I'm a good woman. I'm a good woman. So, yeah, that all got to my head. And so we dated in high school, and he proposed my senior year of high school. He proposed and wanted to get married. And at first I thought he was kidding, but then I realized, because we had only been talking about 3 months, but then I realized that he was serious. So my mother had us wait till I got out of high school. So when I got to my sophomore year in college, we got married. And by my junior year in college, I pretty much I got pregnant that year, the sophomore year after we got married, and I had the baby. Oh, of course, I thought, oh, I had a baby, we have a child together and we're married. A lot of women believe that once they start having kids with their husband, that and they're a wife, they're kids, that their husband owes them something. And that is the wrong attitude to have. Just because you have kids with your husband, you have kids because God blessed you with children. Those children have a father too. So we had the one. We had a set of twins after that. We ended up having 5 kids together. 5 beautiful children. And I'm so happy to have all of them. This was years ago, so Now our youngest is 17 and our oldest is 24. Um, so when we were having our kids, I just kind of, even before we got married, I told him, just backing up to that, I said, look, if you want to marry me, I have to handle all of the bills. I have to have all the paychecks. You have to bring all the money to me. I'm going to handle the business. That's the way I knew about it. That's the way my mom, she handled the business in my home. So I don't want to hear all this stuff. If you don't let me handle all the business, all the money, all the bills, everything in the home, I'm not going to marry you. I told him I straight up was not going to marry him. And I knew he wanted to marry me. I knew he he wanted to marry me. So I pretty much had him in the corner. So of course he was like, well, I don't know. My father handled most of those things. And I said, I don't know. If you want to marry me, I have to handle everything. And so fast forward, we're married, we have kids. I'm supposed to be handling all of this, the bills and all this stuff. Mind you, I'm wearing myself out, but I don't know it at the time. It is exhausting wearing the pants when you're not meant to wear the pants. I did not let him lead our home. I led our home. I put the pants on, I took care of everything, and I wore myself completely out. So what ended up happening, I'll give you examples. We went to a furniture store one day. And so we walk into the furniture store. We want to buy a bed for our room. We were moving into a small house and we needed a bed. So I went in to go purchase a bed. We went in together. So we go in. He begins to talk to the clerk. And the clerk looks at him to start talking to him, the furniture clerk. And I'm looking at the clerk and I interrupt. And I literally go, excuse me, ma'am, just a minute. I'm the one that handles the business in our home. He doesn't know anything about, handling the business and purchasing things. So you can just talk to me because, I'm the one that's going to make this decision for the bed. And, so I'm looking at him, my husband, I'm looking at the clerk, and I'm looking at my husband, and I'm looking back at the clerk. And I all of a sudden see this look on my husband's face like I offended him or something. I knew the look because, you could tell in human nature, when you've offended someone. But I was like, well, okay, well, he'll be all right, and I continued to talk. So I went ahead, and so the clerk looks at me and looks at him, and she slowly just like, okay, follow me then, ma'am, So, yeah, so that's one example. There's so many examples. But in so many ways, I had to wear the pants. I don't know why I was so determined to wear the pants in our marriage. So the children came. My attitude was haughty and self-righteous. My husband couldn't do anything right. Couldn't do nothing right. Nothing. Everything he did wrong is what I focused on. What he didn't do. The man straight up took care of, at one point, because, when we started having all the children, at one point, the bills, the daycare, there's so many stories I can give you. I was working to pay daycare because we went from one child, we went to a family of 3, to a family of 5, then a family of 6, then a family of 7. And eventually I was working to pay daycare. So basically, I had to make a decision to come off the job because we couldn't find anyone to keep the kids because the daycare costs were too high. I was giving my whole check to daycare. So I had to make a transition and find another way to go about things. So that's one of the things that happened. Leading up to that, I'll tell you some decisions that I made that I was not very good financially. I made some decisions, I decided we already had a car with a car payment and car insurance. Mind you, we were barely at this time when we had this car. I think we were barely we had all of our children by the time I was 27. We were young. All 5 kids by the time I was 27. Not joking. He was 28. We had a car at around about that time, and I decided we were going to get a van. We were going to go out there and go get a van, right? We need another car, So I go out there and I begin to tell him, hey, we need another car. We got 5 kids. So this is, we need, or I was pregnant with the 5th child. We're going to need the space. I noticed that, you have to walk our son to, home from school, even what if it's raining? What if it's, so I'm making these decisions. I decided to get a second vehicle. We already were strapped for cash. Well, we were doing, we had a car payment, we had a car insurance. I wanted to get another vehicle, which is going to raise the monthly rate and the car insurance. So the car insurance. I went out and did all that, and I just ran to the dealership and I said, we're going to get a car. And I called him and I said, we need a car, a second car. We need a van. Oh, no, don't get the van. I've done our research. I've done the research. We cannot afford this. Coel, do not get that van. We can't do this right now. He told me, because he had looked at the finances. He saw we couldn't do it. No. I decided we were going to get that van. So I didn't tell him. I just went over to the dealership and he called, because it was a little later in the afternoon. Normally I would have been home by about an hour or so. So he called to see where I was, and I was at the dealership. And he was trying to tell me, no, don't do this over the phone. And I was like, oh, I have to go. I have to sign the paperwork. We need this. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye. And so, yeah, I drove home with the van. Hey, look, it's got all the bells and whistles. It's got a DVD player, all right? The kids will love it. So we had our 5th child. Literally, I don't even think it was 6 months before all the bills just started piling up. The creditors started calling. We had to give up the car. Voluntarily give up the car, which was in my sister's name, so her credit score crashed. Things like that. So because of that decision, I got pregnant with the 5th child. I decided we were working to pay daycare. We couldn't afford the daycare. I go and quit my job. So we lose that income. So when we lose that income, we're not able to pay for the van that we had left. So guess who lost his job next? My husband. Why? Because I'm not letting him lead and make the decision. So then I left my job. He loses his job. We're both sitting there on our butts with 5 kids because I wanted to make the decisions in the home. I made horrible decisions. That was really, really bad. So we got evicted with 5 kids. We had to move in with my grandmother. It was horrible. It was horrible. I was actually looking at calling some of I actually called a few shelters because that's how bad it was. Could I have done things better? Oh yeah, a lot better. If I had let my husband lead, all of that could have been avoided. And it's funny, when I left my job, they were actually trying to get me to stay so they could promote me. So what ended up happening, right? We both lost our jobs. It took months before we can get back on our feet. And we had serious financial issues. So he finally gets another job. I get another job. We move into finally get a place of our own. It took about 10 months for us to get back on our feet. And my grandmother actually got us a vehicle. All right, so we get back on our feet. And basically, I end up complaining again. I leave 2 jobs after that. I went to the next job, decided to leave that, went to the next job. It was a substitute teacher. Well, you know what? I don't have to go to work every day. So I decided I was going to sit on my lazy bum and not work with 5 kids. Then my sister moves in. She goes, hey, I need some extra money. I don't have, the money for the rent. And so she said, can you let me borrow the money? Sure. I'll go to my husband, but he says, no, we don't have the money. So she asked, well, can I move in? Not a good idea if you can help it. Not a good idea. But I did go to him and I said, hey, she wants to move in. Can she move in? So yeah, he's like, okay, we're good with moving in. So she moves in. He said, just make sure, I just need her to pay $200 a month rent. Well, she had lost her job, so she couldn't pay him the $200 in rent. A few months go by, winter comes, my dad is having some issues. He had, some issues with staying warm in his home. So I asked my husband, hey, can we let dad stay? He's having trouble, keeping heat in his house, He had some financial issues. So then dad moved in, all right? Mind you, I'm a substitute teacher that works sometimes. If I go once a week, that's all I was doing. They were paying me $8 an hour. So you got my husband, me, my sister, my father, and 5 children. 9 people. My dad had a job, but he was kind of working like a basic, So we got my husband taking care of basically 8 people off of his income pretty much alone. So what did I do? Oh, well, he don't make enough money. He's only making this amount of money per month. So all of our financial issues are all his fault because he doesn't make enough money. So it was always his fault. Always his fault, So basically, I belittled him, pretty much didn't let him make any decisions. I didn't think he was capable of making decisions. I had a bachelor's degree. He had a GED. No. So I just belittled him a lot. And eventually he got tired of it. He just got tired of it. So he basically just said one day, look, if you don't change, I'm leaving. And I said, what do you mean if I don't change? Where are you going? I'm going with you. So he decided to go to Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, and I have family there. So that's what ended up happening. But I moved down there, but by the time we got down there, I could tell everything, our whole marriage dynamic, the relationship, everything. I even told him, he tried to get my sister to move out after we actually lost my dad, which devastated him. He loved my dad. He loved my dad. And I would walk in the room with my sister and talk about him. I would say mean things. Oh, he doesn't make enough money, and he always wants to play video games, and he always does this and that. And I'm so sick of this, and I'm so sick of that. And so I would just belittle him and just bash him to my sister. And I literally would a couple times heard his footsteps walking away. I don't know what was wrong with me. I don't know why I was bashing him, but I was bashing him. And I thought he'll be all right. He'll be okay. It's fine, Yeah, so that's basically what happened. He asked my sister to move out. I said, before my sister moves out, before I push her out on the street, I will push you out on the street. I'll put you out first before I put my sister out. I already lost my mom at that point. I had already lost my dad. And then he wanted my sister to move out. I said, before she moves out, I will push you out on the street. I'll put you out first. And the thought came to me, and then something said, don't say it. And then it all came out. It was right after I lost my dad, about a few months after my dad went for a walk and passed away on the walk. And when a few months later, we were going through his stuff and, getting things packed up, and a big fight ensued between him and my sister. And I told, and he decided, look, maybe she should move out because he just told me, look, Coel, you're pushing me away. You're pushing me away. Why are you pushing me away? So that's what happened. And then basically one day after I told him that, I even told him, hey, look, I don't know why you're not going to church with me. I go to church and you stay home. That makes, I don't understand. That makes no sense to me. Why don't he go to church? Why won't he get saved? Why won't he, it was just, he was always doing something wrong. So I said, you know what? If you don't get saved and you don't go to church, I'm leaving and I'm taking the kids with me. I told him, because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're not getting your life straight with Christ. So it was a mess. It was a mess. So he completely got stony hearted, cold hearted, just cold hearted. I couldn't talk to him anymore. He wouldn't talk to me. The communication just broke down. I especially noticed it on the move, right after the move to Florida. That's what happened. So when we got to Florida, we were still having financial issues, of course, and we ended up getting evicted in Florida. Yeah, we got evicted in Florida, and he packed his stuff and said, look, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. He just kept saying, I'm done. I'm like, what is he talking about? He's done. He just broke down. Like, no communication. I would say something to him, and it would be a one sentence or it'll be a one word response, So, and I didn't know why. I did not know why my marriage was falling apart. I had no clue. None. When I tell you I was clueless, I was clueless. No idea. So he's, started. I didn't see him for a while. He would be gone for days at a time. And then he would come back and say, oh, I'm living somewhere else for a little bit. And I'm like, where are you? What are you doing? Where are you going? What do you mean you're living somewhere else for a bit? What's going on? And so what ended up happening was I couldn't figure out what was wrong. So what I did was I got on my knees. Actually, I got on my face on the floor, just laid down flat on the floor, and I said, God, I am not getting off this floor until you tell me what is wrong, because I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So I got on the floor. I think it was probably around 1 p.m., 12 p.m., something like that. And I didn't get off that floor till like 8 p.m. at night until I got a revelation from God what was going on. And what I saw was a full-on vision of, I just heard the still small voice, and the still small voice said, a husband is an assignment. And a husband, being a wife is a very important assignment to that husband. And I knew it was the voice of God. And he began to explain to me my role in his life was to help build him up so that to help put him on that road to becoming who God created him to be. My job was to help build him up as a wife, was to support him. He said, he is not your enemy. You were to be his partner. You were to come along beside him, be his helpmeet. You had an important job to do, an important assignment. And he, being a husband, your husband is an important assignment. So when he began to show that to me, my eyes were like, oh my God, because then I started playing back all the times that I was mean to him, all the mean things I said, all the breaking him down, that I just did a lot of demeaning, just cutting him down. So I saw my life movie, and all the times I've just always said so many mean things to him. I even went to my grandmother. Oh, he don't make enough money. I don't. My grandmother kept saying to me, and I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. She said, "That's a good man. You got a good man. He take good care of his family. That's a good man." And I kept saying to myself, "But Granny, I'm not finished yet. What do you mean he's a good man?" But I'm telling you what he's doing wrong. So I didn't understand what she meant by that. It was like she was trying to let me know, don't talk about him like that. What are you doing? You know? So she said he's doing everything he can to take care of his family. You know? So God began to show me in that vision what I was doing wrong, that all the times I demean him, put him down, and my heart broke. But at that time, by that time, he was done. So I was figuring out what it was I was doing wrong, but he was done. So I say that to say this. If you see certain signs that your husband's not talking to you, or he's saying things like, if you ask him about doing something and he says, well, you're going to do it anyway, that's a sign something's not right in the marriage. Go on, you do it anyway. Go do what you want. Do what you want to do. Go do what you want to do. And you're scrolling in the phone or spending extra time on the video games. The wall being of communication being shut down between you. That is a surefire sign that something is wrong in your marriage, and you are going to have to make some changes. You're going to have to pray, because if you get to the point where it's too far, you're going to have to change, but he's going to be at a point where he's tired of it. And he may be even mean and shut down, but you still have to become the godly wife that you need to be. And God can help you do that, but you're going to have to suffer. You got to have the fruits of the Spirit: patience, kindness, meekness, gentleness. There are some fruits of the Spirit. There are 9 of them. Self-control is a big one. Because when it gets to that point, when you've gone that far and he's just tired of it, it's going to take some extra work between you and God to get that relationship back where it needs to be. So that is what happened with him and I. And so he was done with it. I mean, to the point of tears. Like, he even broke down and cried several times. Finally, I just said, look, I guess I'm not the wife that I'm supposed to be to you. I knew at that point I had done some things wrong and I couldn't fix it. I said, one day I just looked him in the eye and I said, I'm so sorry I'm not the wife that you wanted me to be. And he just broke down in tears. And this is a man, I'm not used to seeing him cry. He just broke down and I said, I'm sorry I'm not the wife you want me to be. Just broke down. So why does the husband not want to talk? Why is there a breakdown in communication? Why is it happening? Your words. Watch your words. Watch how you speak to your husband. God gave every husband something on the inside of him he's supposed to be the leader in the home. He's supposed to lead. And when you take that away by making him seem like everything he says is wrong and he doesn't know what he's talking about, he can't lead, and then he shuts down. And you have to realize your husband is not your enemy. Your husband is your friend. You are partners. You are supposed to become one flesh. Ladies, watch the words that you say to your husband. Watch how you talk to him. He's not a child. All right? He's a grown man. You're not his mother. He has a heart, just like you have a heart. If a person talks to you any kind of way and you never can do anything right, say on a job, your boss, your friends, whatever, and there's something they always harp on you about and you never can get anything right, how would you feel? He has a heart. He has a soul. He's a person just like all of us. And I think we forget that, We we forget that our husbands are people just like us. They can hurt. They bleed red blood just like we do. We can hurt them, and we know how to push those buttons. So he filed for divorce. And he didn't really want to do that. And it's 4th of July out here, but it's actually the 5th of July now. 250th anniversary of United States. But that is what I'm trying to do with this podcast, is help wives realize what's happening, why it's happening, and help them to turn the other way. Read the Bible. Get your relationship right with God. My relationship with God was off. Totally off. I thought I had a relationship with God, but I didn't. And he thought I was evil. Evil. And he thought that I hated him. When you don't respect your husband and you say mean things, he takes it as hate. You hate him. And it can, and it does, a lot of times, it leads to infidelity. Why does a husband cheat? My wife hates me. She doesn't respect me. And they automatically think you don't love them. Respect is love. It's important. Okay? So that's my story, why I started this podcast. And more to come. There's more to come from there, okay? So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching. Gentlemen, husbands, I get it. Please pray for your wives, because they don't understand why these things are happening between you and her. She may not know why, especially if the wife is used to a strong woman leading the family, because her mother did it, her grandmother did it. She thinks it's normal. So husbands, my quick message to you, if you know the Lord, please pray for your wife and have this conversation with her. And if not, prayer. It's going to take prayer. It's going to take counseling. Please don't consider divorce. Okay? More to come. Thank you so much. Blessings.